This is what sailing was meant to be like.
How's my hair?
Good.
I'm Kyle.
And I'm Ted.
And we are Swanky Sailing.
We figured we'd introduce ourselves and tell you a little bit about us, our adventure, and what we've got planned. We bought this boat, Lucia 40 Fontaine Peugeot, last year. We actually have been under contract for it, or went under contract for it in October of 15. And we picked it up in France in December of last year. And our original plan was to sell everything and live on the boat full time. And we're still kind of doing that, except I'm having to work. So I go back and forth to the boat on a regular basis, and Kyle's here all the time. A couple of questions that most people have: how are we paying for this?
But you're rich, right, Ted?
No, I'm not rich. I wish I was rich.
Well, yeah, we got here from our own work, basically. I mean, none of what the assets that we had were given to us. We worked to them and invested in, you know, our own savings and real estate and whatever else to basically get here. Definitely out of our own means at every step of the way.
And we got here because when Kyle and I met almost 6 years ago, his big dream was to live on a boat. And that's been his dream since what, high school? Middle school?
Probably before that. I don't know. From as early as I can remember, I thought boats were really cool, and I wanted to travel around and see what you could see by boat. I just thought it was an awesome kind of thing to do, and sailing was always fun to me and exciting, so I get to live in paradise. I mean, it's pretty amazing, actually.
And I've always loved the water. I've always loved boats. I grew up in Savannah on the river. The river was literally in our backyard, and we always had a boat. Every weekend we go to one of the Berry Islands to the beach and hang out, and it was always a lot of fun. And I never pictured myself living on a boat. I always pictured myself living in Florida with a house that has a dock on in the backyard and having a boat tied up. But then I met Kyle and we decided to do this. So here we are.
Yeah, and I'd always grown up around boats as well. In fact, my dad even, shortly after he lost one of his jobs, then he worked on a shrimp boat for a while, which was pretty tough work. But, you know, I was in Boy Scouts, and luckily they had a program where we had access to, you know, 25 and 30 foot boats. And so we did a lot of sailing around Galveston Bay on those. I even spent an entire summer teaching small boat sailing on sunfish, and that was a blast. And then also my brother and I, when we were like probably around 17, we bought a Hobie 16 catamaran and took that down to the beach as much as we could, and it was an absolute blast to ride that thing through the breaking waves at the beach, and we had a ton of fun with that.
And by the way, right now we're in Puerto Rico, so we're on the
island of Cubalita,
yes,
which is Little Culebra, which is snake in Spanish, and it has an amazing beach and crystal clear water. It's like paradise.
It's gorgeous. It's what I picture the Bahamas, except warmer water and just gorgeous. Like it's amazing. I thought that the BVI was pretty awesome, but this place I think beats it. BVI has more like places on land to go to, but I'm all about hanging out on the water and drinking and hanging out on the beach and just relaxing, and this has everything I want and then some.
It does. Plus we have an ice machine and a blender and mixers
and a water maker. Got all the essentials.
Yeah, we're decked out to be able to do this pretty long term, actually.
Yeah, that's the plan. So that is a good segue into what our plan is. We picked up the boat in France, then started our crossing from Lisbon to St. Martin, and then hung out in the Virgin Islands for a little while. Now we're in Puerto Rico, and the next stop is the Bahamas. And then sometime in early June, we're going to start headed up to the States, and we're going to spend a week or two in Savannah to get a haul out, and take the boat up to Philly because I'm actually based there for work, and we'll spend the summer in Philly and then bring it back down south for the winter, and we'll split the winter between the Keys and the Bahamas. So that's the current plan right now. I would love to go explore the rest of the world. I mentioned earlier I'm tied down with a job. Somebody's got to pay for all this. So luckily my job's nice and to me, and they let me work remote every couple of weeks or so. So usually once a month or once every other month I'm out on the boat for at least a week. And like I said, we're bringing it up to Philly, which will help a lot.
Right, which has given me a lot of time to be a solo sailor.
Kyle's really learned how to single hand this boat, and he's really, really good at it, which is pretty awesome.
So yeah, I would consider myself fairly confident. This was my dream and I get to live it every day. Sometimes it's a lot of work, but other times it's absolutely amazing. Most of the time, it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's a boat, so there's always projects going on. We're never bored. If we're not at the beach, we're doing something. We've got a whole board of stuff that's got to get done on the boat at some point, and we're always adding to that and always trying to get it done, even though it's a brand new boat. It's just part of boat ownership, I guess. Yeah,
that and just the amount of preparation that goes into deciding where you want to go, figuring out how you're going to get there, checking the weather, checking for people's schedule and airports flying in and out, and you know, marinas that have space for a boat with the beam as wide as ours, whether you know you have enough fuel and water and food, and you know where you can provision and where you can anchor and where you have to tie up a mooring ball and where you need a park permit.
It's a lot of effort.
It's a lot of planning that has to go in, you know, that doesn't really get seen by most people. That actually, you know, consumes a lot of time, actually. To read those guidebooks, the cruising guides, you know, check the charts and maps, and keep you busy, for sure.
Yep. So, a little bit more background. Previously, I worked for a different company, and up until January of this year, and at that job I was actually able to work remote 100% of the time. So we were planning on being on the boat all the time, and pretty much my dream job came up, and working for an awesome crew and awesome team, and I could not turn it down. So I ended up taking it, but again with the understanding that I would be on the boat at some point in time, but not all the time like my past job. It's been challenging.
It's a non-ideal lifestyle to be separated, for sure. And
we're married, by the way, so
yeah.
We, up until I took this job in January, the longest we'd been apart was about a week and a half, 2 weeks, when Kyle was in France, prepping everything to get to the boat before I arrived. And before that, we'd only been apart for maybe 5 days at a time. And this last stint, we were apart for almost 7 weeks. So it's a huge difference, especially when we're going to be dependent on each other. Like, and it's going to be nice to have him in the boat in Philly for the summer.
I mean, it's not going to be the Caribbean. You're not going to have a beach where you can swim, but there's a ton of stuff in Philly. And part of what I like is going ashore and seeing the history of things and exploring. So that's going to be, you know, between Philly, Annapolis, DC, that's just all really close together. It's going to be a fun time just to go explore and learn about, you know, the founding of our nation, and gain a better understanding about, you know, history, which helps give you a better understanding about how things happen present day. Of course, a lot of people ask me, how did I end up to get in the position that I am now, where I get to be captain of the boat and take care of things?
He married well.
Yeah, you have step one, you have to find your own tent. I was actually an electrical engineer for 11 years.
Yep.
Before we took time off to spend some time with Ted's dad and then start this boat adventure. And in the future, I'm sure I will return to the working world, but...
Granted, the whole reason behind our name, Swanky, originally when I met Kyle, he wanted to do this, but he wanted to buy, you know, a fixer-upper boat. You know, pay $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in cash, you know, spend another 20% fixing it up and re-rigging it, so to speak, re-outfitting it, and then sail around on that. However, Kyle always says that I overdo everything, and he said that about the house that we bought in Denver, he said that about my car when I met him, he said that about the house in Atlanta. Pretty much everything I've ever done, I go big or go home, and it's because I've got one life to live, and I'm gonna live it the way I wanna live it. So this boat ended up being probably 10x nicer than anything Kyle had in mind, and we pretty much got our dream boat. So we decided to own it and call it Swanky.
I had never imagined that we would buy a brand new boat. We chose it because it had a lot of features that the Helia had. Mainly, it was really nice that you have the walk-around island berths.
The owner side.
And the owner suite with the shower, the way it's just, the layout is done really well. Plus, we really liked like the fridge and the freezer space. And we thought the galley was going to be a little small.
It's fine.
But so far it's turned out to be perfectly fine. And we also love the outdoor cockpit that we have because it has a huge table, we have tons of seating, and lots of shade. It's really, really comfortable.
Oh, cats versus monohulls. So again, we're not going to get into that debate. Cats are really comfortable at anchor. Monohulls are depending on how you're facing and how the winds are going.
I thought you said you weren't going to get into the cat versus mono.
I guess that's true. Yeah, we like our dockside condo.
The other thing I love about this boat is visibility. You actually have better visibility from inside the salon, you know, sitting at the table or cooking at the kitchen than you do at the helm station. I mean, you can see 360 degrees around you and in any weather, and that part is really nice.
We will do a boat tour at some point, but what we've got coming up next is all of the work that we did in France to prepare for the crossing, the actual crossing itself, and then some videos about the time that we spent in the Caribbean. And the stuff in France is pretty crazy. Like, you won't believe what we've had to deal with since we bought this boat. If we can get through this as a couple, we can get through anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
You'll find out, but...
Yep. So, let's show you where we're at right now, because this place is gorgeous. So, we've got amazing views out the port side of the boat. There's our paddleboard that's also a windsurfer. And if I keep on going this way, we've got a crystal clear water beach that we took the paddleboard up to earlier and hung out with on most of the day. And then going around, we've got lots and lots and lots of boats. This is a crazy popular anchorage slash mooring slash whatever. But it's a lot of fun, everybody's friendly, and it's a pretty cool place to be. So I like it.